Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Ariella Indigo and I'm your host for the Multidimensional Human Experience Global Summit. So the reason that I felt inspired to create this summit was to learn more about being a multidimensional human and to share that knowledge with everybody watching, and also to get some expert advice on how sensitive people, I include myself in that category, can really manage our sensitivities so that we can get up and running and ultimately deliver our purpose and make a major impact with our missions. There's lots of people waking up now, as we know, and many of us are awakening to our multidimensional natures. So I had an experience myself about 2.5 years ago now, which completely shifted the way that I understand reality forever. And really since then, I felt passionately drawn to raising awareness about other realities of existence and to help fellow sensitives to push past their challenges so that we can evolve spiritually and align with our missions. So in today's interview, I'm honoured to be joined by Gail and Gregory Hoag, who founded Metaforms over 30 years ago now, which is a really beautiful heart-based business which creates energetic tools that support people to evolve into higher awareness with source and heart consciousness. They're recognised as experts on sacred geometric technologies for renewing health, raising consciousness, reducing stress, manifesting purpose, and clearing electromagnetic interference. Gail and Gregory, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to do this interview with you and for our viewers to connect with the huge amount of experience that you guys have got in the multidimensional arena. I'd like to welcome you to the summit and start off, if I may, by asking you both just to tell us a bit about your own awakening journeys and also how you've come to connect so deeply with sacred geometry.
Well, thank you, Ariella. I'll start. I'll jump in here. And, the journey is an amazing thing. I believe that we come into this incarnation, and even though we don't necessarily remember the clarity of past lives, this is sort of a stream of many lives and, an accumulation of knowledge, experiences, recognition, awareness, acceptance of who we are. And we come here to take that next step, to polish the surfaces, to just continue on with this journey. And so for me, actually my first kind of like little mini awakening was when I was 3 years old. And I was outside playing and I was swinging on a swing and something hit me. It was like, wow, I know why I'm here. I'm here to bring joy to the world. I'm here to bring a sense of purpose, of understanding, of, that there's, we are all here to make an impact on the planet. And I couldn't tell you from the 3-year-old psyche what specifically that was. However, it was so profound that it changed my life. And I just knew that it wasn't going to happen when I was a little girl, but throughout time, I would be on a journey where it was about making a difference on the planet. And so where that shifted into geometry is pretty much, I journeyed into being an artist. And as an artist, I would look very deeply into things. And I was fascinated with light and color. And so that also brought me into understanding shapes and form and all kinds of things. When I was exploring that time with painting and color and light, I was also starting to get deeply into the work of Buckminster Fuller. He's the one who created the geodesic dome. The word synergistics is what really is one of his word contributions. I was fascinated. He talked about the tetrahedron, which is the 3-dimensional triangle, and how that was what he called the closest packing of spheres. And it made sense energetically that everything is organized in particular ways and geometric ways that when energy comes into matter, it follows certain pattern and form. So I was getting very, very involved in that, and had a real understanding of geometry. And not terribly long after, I had moved to Colorado, and I was bringing through the consciousness of Bucky Fuller after he'd passed away, because I said, wow, I love this being and what he had to share. I'm sure there's still a lot more up there that I can connect in with. So I asked, and I would go into meditation, and I would bring through that knowledge. And it got to a point where there was so much technical scientific information. Well, I didn't have a science background. So I just said, wait a minute, I'm sort of at that point where this is beyond my capability to do much of anything with this. And I'm a practical person. So I said, either stop, or Spirit, bring me somebody that I can work with where we can make a difference with this information. And it was very shortly after that that we got together and we found each other.
Oh, Spirit was pushing us together for a long time. I had one of the couple cards that she had handmade in my wallet. It was the only card in my wallet for a year before we connected.
Really?
Someone said, you need to meet this woman. And so, that's part of what you're sharing with people, is just how synchronicities start happening more and more in our lives. And the more we recognize them, acknowledge our connection to Spirit, the more Spirit goes, I'm going to give you more. It's like a friend of ours says, thank you and bring me more. Whenever you have anything lovely happen in your life, when cash, when love, when experience comes into your life, thank Spirit and say, bring me more.
I like that.
It's not being greedy, because, it's just, that's the natural order of who we are. We're spiritual beings, as many of us realize, having a physical experience. And so we're awakening to that higher dimensional experience. And it's such a joy to recognize that we're being loved, we're being played with. And I guess my journey really started more seriously about, close to 50 years ago now. I started doing a lot of different meditations, working with different masters. And then in 1980, I built a very expensive pyramid, cost over $50,000 to put it together, with the crystals, with the gold, with the silver, with crystal balls this large. And can't see both my hands. It was big.
I can see.
But bottom line, it was something that the other man that had developed it and myself, we were sleeping in every night, taking turns. And it set off my Kundalini, which for those that may not be familiar, it's that energy that comes up from the earth. It's a familiar understanding in most indigenous cultures, especially in India and working with the chakras. It's the energy that moves up from the earth in a way that starts to clear all the chakras, that starts to allow for a higher connection. But it was so strong and uncomfortable, really, when it first started. For years, it took a while to bring it into balance. I had so much energy coming through me that there were holes being burned in my feet just from walking on the earth. And I had to really work to calm the energy in my body. But what the end result was the ability to communicate with higher dimensional beings, realizing that I am a multidimensional being. It's important to be grounded here. And that information started flowing through. So I started building geometries like, some of these forms out of metal, and I was carrying them around in a little box when I met Gail, and she really was, just that impetus. Both of us realized we have work to do together, and then we realized, okay, being married would just synergize, bring that energy together in a way where we both supported, recognized, and universe was supporting us in working together. And here it is. We've been doing this as a business, as you said, for over 30 years. And we've been working together, and, we see each other every day, almost constantly working together, working on the business, writing things together. And we've gotten to a point where it's become pretty smooth and easy. And, working through all the rough bumps. And that's, that's what it is to be a human being. You still have the experience here, and it's important to work through everything and see Spirit as really offering some of the things that we need to learn as a speed bump to slow us down, recognize, okay, this is something to work on, and Spirit is always there to support us in that process.
Yeah, that is amazing. I love both of your stories. I love listening to people's awakening stories. They're always so different and unique. And yeah, whether it's like a knowingness that you had, Gail, which is amazing to have had that from such a young age. And yet, whether it's a knowingness or whether it's an activation or an experience like your Kundalini suddenly coming to life like Gregory had, it's unique to all of us. And I love what you said about, which is something that I resonate with after having, a big galactic activation 2.5 years ago. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people, and a lot of people watching this will be going through their own awakenings or have had their own sort of big experiences. And I think we can all relate to, it takes a while for this energy to integrate, right? When you have these big experiences. And part of the challenge and what is so important to align with our missions and to ensure that we're impacting with our missions is that we are bringing that down into the physical and anchoring our missions into the physical, right? If we're staying up there, which I know it's tempting to do, but we're here to ground these energies into the physical, which you guys are obviously doing beautifully with your products. Do you want to speak a bit more about that? Because I think that's a big area for many people.
Yeah, I think this really deserves a little extra airtime because at least in the past, I think a lot of people thought about ascension in terms of leaving, that we don't need the body, we don't need this whole physical dimension, whatever. Yeah. Our souls have chosen to be here. They've chosen this whole amazing evolutionary path. There's so much that we have here to learn from, to enjoy, and most importantly, to be co-creators. And that's a really big part, how we can be co-creators in the way of love and light. Because there's been co-creation in the way of darkness and power over and all the kinds of extremes that we're seeing played out on our planet now and throughout history. Our position is to bring consciousness, to bring awareness, to bring resonance to a whole nother level of humanity, which exudes love and light. So, I think that when it gets down to it, that's really what this whole journey is about, and honoring the physical. There's so much with recognizing that, even down to like healing the body. You're not going to heal the body if you want to leave it all the time or if you want to make it wrong. You're only going to do that through true appreciation and acceptance of what's been brought to us, what we can extract from those experiences and the the ways that we've looked at that and shift those perspectives. So what we really work on with everything that we do is we have designed tools that support people in being here and then being able to reach higher connection. Because that's really what it's about. Being more of who we really are from the higher levels, from the higher dimensions. And when I say higher dimensions, I don't mean, that means that we're outside of the body. It's really about bringing that breath of all those qualities, those relationships, into physical interaction, into this life experience that we're all having.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
yeah, please do.
Universe doesn't waste anything. And something that science is aware of is just the number of cells in our body, and each cell has DNA strands woven through it. And so when you look at the quantity of DNA within the body, this double helix, which is really, if you were to take it out of each cell and line them up end to end, it would stretch over 14 billion miles. And, science says right now that only 1.5% is necessary for the 2.7 billion different chemicals that are manufactured in the body. All the aspects to run the body physically comes down to only 1.5% of our DNA. And yet we've got 14 billion miles. It's like, what's that doing there? And part of that is it is literally an antenna system. And what it is working with is light. So to be enlightened is literally to bring light into the body. And science has shown this, that you put DNA in a room and totally seal off the room, you'll start seeing photons popping out of nowhere in that room and moving toward the DNA. And not only does it move toward the DNA, if you take the DNA away, the photons hang out where the DNA was for up to 30 days, a month. So it's like we're little light trails. If you can see from the higher dimensions, we have light pouring into us. We are running on light. We are working with light. Information is carried through on those light frequencies and vibrations. And the body is becoming enlightened when it is working in those vibrational frequencies that are aligned with the higher aspects of ourself. And joy and love and all those positive aspects are part of what open up that channel. And whenever we have negativity, like when we have anger or we're feeling sad, we literally shut our bodies down. We are not open to that love. We're not open to that light. And something to understand is there really is only one emotion, and that emotion is fear. And what I mean by that is it emotes from the body. And the fear had a purpose as this body was developing over the eons, and that purpose was to get us out of harm's way. When bad guys came up over the hill, when there was a saber-toothed tiger, all the chemicals would flood our body, the cortisols, and we'd start running. Nothing else mattered but to save our bodies. But now that fear is not helping us. Science even says that stress is killing us. Negative emotions make us sick. Anger can literally shut the heart down. And so we're seeing that the reason is it's blocking that higher flow of light. It's blocking that flow of love. And when you feel love, when you feel joy, that's your higher self coming through. It's not coming from the body. You feel it in the body, but it's your higher self talking to you. And it's saying, go for it. What you're doing is good. What you feel joy about, follow your joy. That's the essence of what Joseph Campbell said when he was saying, follow your bliss. He's saying that's your higher self speaking. Trust it. If you're sad and you're hanging out with your friend and you're feeling, terrible and you're feeling guilty, and it's like you're blocking the truth. That isn't who you are, and you need to find ways to get out of that funk. And some of the things we do literally increase the vibration. When I was showing you earlier some of the geometries, what happens with the geometry that's three-dimensional is it literally starts gathering energy. Just like our DNA, the spirals are moving energy through the body, which helps create the electrical flow within the body. The body runs on electricity inside. This is a form of the electromagnetic flow of energy, a form of light. The magnetic flow, the electric flow, they work at crossing each other to create frequencies in the body for communication, for movement of energy. And that's what these dimensional tools that we create, the big ones, and then we have found a way to make them very flat onto a surface where you can see those different flat patterns.
Yes.
Okay, what those are is basically there are 9 shapes on there, and those 9 shapes
beautiful
correlate to 3 different three-dimensional geometries. Because you see, if you take a three-dimensional geometry and you look at it from the edge, or you look at it from the point, the vertice, or you look at it from the face, the geometry changes. And when you have each of those 3 perspectives on a flat surface, you can project three-dimensional energy into a flat surface. So that's what we're doing when we're wearing some of these pieces.
I noticed you've both got pendants on, which look very lovely.
Yeah, these are the Heart Companion, and Gregory is going to show you it's a 2-sided pendant with the geometries and gemstones. They're really beautiful gemstones.
Really beautiful.
On each side. And
so you see that's one side and another side.
Yes.
Because by having 2 sides, you can decide how you want the energy to flow in your body. Will it flow down into the earth, into your heart, be more grounded and connected to Earth Mother? Or does it flow up and become more mental, more energetic, more connected to higher aspects of ourselves? So you control the energy flow, and it works either way to really start opening the heart space to allow people to have so many incredible experiences of connecting with their higher self, because your soul starts riding this vibration through, and it becomes easier and easier to connect to who
like
you
a tuning
are.
fork. Kind of like a tuning fork?
It's a way of resonating, and it is the technology that's inside with all of these different toroidal flows and antenna systems and the geometries. It sets up a particular pattern. And actually, we take these tools and then we put them in a chamber that we have on our land. And the chamber is kind of like really creating that coherent field, so that it's almost like there's a lot of raw material in there. And then when you put it into that chamber, and the innards of it have the capability to hold that, those frequencies, they can hold that light. And so as a result, when you are wearing this, what happens is that you're connected. You're remembering who you are. You're able to, we talk a lot these days about making that transition from the head to the heart, living your life through that truth, that expression of the heart, which is far wiser than just the brain in and of itself. And so relationship shift, intuition opens up, the ability for synchronous situations to happen. You know, those are all very specific situations that show that we're in alignment with those higher dimensional energies, with that aspect of ourselves that's been wanting to come through. And it's coming through in a way that we can step back and we can accept it. We can be a part of that.